Guitar tips, just the tips, just for you. Guitar tips. Hello and welcome to Guitar Tips and Guitar Tips Pro. My name is Adam Levy. This is my weekly video blog series. You may know this if you are a regular here, and if you're new here, welcome. Each week I talk about a little guitar thing that I think you could benefit from. And this week's guitar thing is slurring. And I'm calling this week's tip, To Slur with Love. Now, slurring on the guitar, what is it? It's anytime you play two notes or more in a row without picking all of them. So let's say you want to get from C to C sharp. If you pick both notes, then there's no slur. But if you slide, that's one kind of slur. Another kind of slur would be hammer-on. And of course, another kind of slur is a pull-off. Can't really pull off from C to C sharp, but if you were going the other way, you could do a pull-off this way, or a slide this way. And of course, it doesn't have to just be two notes that are a half step apart. It could be whole step, or minor third, or a fourth, or whatever it is. And it could go in either direction, and there could be more than one note in a row. Oh boy. Yeah. My trusty old Deluxe has a dragon trapped inside. Fire-breathing dragon who's making some noise. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's every once in a while there's a little funky something or other. Anyway, so you get the idea. So that's what slurring is. Why I wanted to talk about it this week is that I've noticed with some of my students, some of my in-person students, that they don't really give it a lot of thought. They slur when stuff kind of just naturally lays under their fingers, but it's often not like a creative choice or an expressive choice. It's just kind of default. So I wanted to look this week at, oh boy, come on, dragon, settle down. I'll feed you after I'm done tipping here. Anyway, it's loud to me. It may not be loud to you at all, so I'll try to just ignore it. Okay, so what does that look like in practice? Well, everybody, I'm sure among you, you all know the A minor pentatonic scale. So let's just look, and if you don't know it, I'm playing frets 5, 8, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5, 8, 5, 8, and using one finger per fret. So anything that's in the 5th fret, I'm using my first finger, 7th fret notes, ring finger, 8th fret notes with pinky, and for now there's nothing going on in the 6th fret, so my middle finger is not doing really anything in the next example, in the examples that I'm going to play here. So got a metronome at 70, and what I'm going to do is, whenever possible, in other words, whenever there's two notes on one string, I'm going to do a hammer-on. And if I'm going up, it's a hammer-on. If I'm coming down, it'll be a pull-off. So that'll be like this: 2, 3, 4. I'll do it again: 2, 3, 4. seems easy. It's not actually as easy as it seems. And as you practice that, I want you to record yourself and then listen back to it. Do it a few times and listen back. And what you want to listen for is evenness of volume, so that your picked notes and your hammered notes are of equal volume. And also swingness, and that your eighth notes should be evenly spaced, that your picked notes and your hammered notes, later on, if you want to do something expressive with the rhythm and have things be more swung or less swung, you can do that. But the goal for now is to just make things super even. And if you're not sure what I mean about swinging, what I'm talking about there is the eighth notes. If you're playing consecutive eighth notes, are they straight eighths, which would just be a very mechanical, ba, 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 or swung eighths, which is what we hear often in jazz and in some kinds of blues. And if you're not really sure at all what I'm talking about, I would encourage you to go back and watch guitar tips from my original YouTube series, number 86. It's called As In To Swing. And I talk about swing eighth notes and slurring a little bit in that tip. So go back and watch that. This tip, this week's tip, could be seen as an extension on that tip. So go back and watch that if you haven't. Okay, so that's the first thing. We're just going to do this. We'll do it again. One more time. 2, 3, 4. And then the next variation is we're going to do the exact same thing, but we're going to displace everything by 1/8 note. So we're going to start on the and of beat 1. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, and it sounds like this: 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Similarly, I would want you to record yourself doing that and listen to that and see if you tend to swing differently when things are displaced and now all the slurring is happening on the ands. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 instead of 1 and 2 and 3 and. So when the slurs are on the offbeats, do you swing differently? Is the relative volume of things different? So check that out. Again, you may ultimately want to do things that aren't even or symmetrical at all, but start from getting that stuff really even and symmetrical, and then go at it from an expressive, creative choice place rather than just getting by and not being aware of what you're actually doing when you play. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple more variations. Let's see. We could do triplets, so that would be like this: 2, 3, 4. Let's see. No, I made a pattern where I didn't intend to. So this is going to be just up the scale and back in triplets: 2, 3, 4. Could displace it again, but now we have 2 displacement options. Instead of in the original eighth note sequence, you can just move it over by 1/8 note. Now, because it's triplets, for each beat we can displace it to the second eighth note triplet and also the third eighth note triplet. So here is displaced by 1/8 note triplet: 2, 3, 4, 1. And here is displaced by 2 eighth note triplets. 2, 3, 4, 1. 2, 3, again. 1. So now there's a whole bunch of variations that you could do. You could try displacing the eighth note starting even later, not just on the and of 1, but you could start that sequence on beat 2, you could start it on the and of 2, and so on. And once you get the hang of swinging on downbeats and also swinging on offbeats, or sorry, slurring on downbeats and slurring on offbeats, where you displace it's not going to matter all that much, but it is good to practice starting phrases that you know on different beats, so that when you're soloing and improvising, you're comfortable starting phrases on any place within the bar, not just always some people get into the habit of always starting on beat 1 or some other beat that becomes a habit, and this is a good opportunity to practice starting in different places, and the same is true with triplets. And then obviously if you wanted to take this another step further, we've just done 1 minor pentatonic fingering, there's 4 others, and of course there's 11 other keys that we can practice in, there's other kinds of metric subdivisions. So this is a small idea that you could take to all kinds of places if you were so inclined. And I hope that you are so inclined. Now, if you're watching at home on my YouTube Guitar Tips channel, that will be the end of this week's tip to slur with love. We are now 2 pages into a 6-page lesson. So if this is whet your appetite and you want to do more exploration of slurring with different rhythmic subdivisions and how it applies to bebop phrasing, you will want to check out Guitar Tips Pro. There's a link to that down below. Not only is more stuff explored here in the video realm, but also you can actually get the PDFs that I'm playing off of, and a whole bunch more stuff. It's not for nothing that Guitar Tips Pro is called Guitar Tips Pro. So if you are ready to go pro, click on the link down below and